Today, we're helping our everydayers understand why the Angels can't make easy fixes, but what they can do instead.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We often have everydayers that tell us that the Angels should send this guy down when they're struggling, and usually it's a young player. Today, we're going to explain why that way of thinking is good for some teams, but not for your favorite team. Then we're going to tell you why the Angels struggle with this, and we're going to talk about their depth, and then why sending a player down really isn't that simple. And then, of course, we're going to talk about what the Angels do versus what winning teams do. A lot to cover, but before we get there, we want to thank our sponsor, Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
Happy Monday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're talking Angels baseball Monday through Friday. It's the place to be when you want to talk about your Halos. And of course, we're doing that through the off season. And so we're glad that you're here. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen, or if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button as well. You can count on us to be here for you Monday through Friday, talking about your favorite team. Mike, you had a very interesting conversation come up recently. And so you've brought this to the table on Locked On Angels. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so it all started with a conversation about Logan O'Hoppe. And when a young player like O'Hoppe or any other player is struggling, most everydayers, most Angel fans will say something along the lines of they should send that player down. In fact, there was a lot of comments about O'Hoppe last week when we were doing the roster grades. And there was one fan in particular that said that he strikes out too much and the Angels need to send him down. And so we commented back and said, if you send every player on the Angels that strike out way too much down to the minor leagues, then you wouldn't have a team at the major league level, right?
Everyone strikes out on this team, right?
They do. And then that everydayer amended their comment and just said they should send Logan down. But the send him down comment is what we want to address today, because we are convinced at Locked On Angels and as the Super Halo Bros that strategy will not work for the Halos. And there's three reasons why, Johnny. The first reason is that the Angels have a depth issue, right? They have a depth issue. They have the young, pretty good players on their roster, the Christian Moores and the Nolan Shawnoells, Logan O'Hoppes, the Zach Nettos, all playing regularly. Now, yeah, there's some flaws there, right? But they're still developing, and they are becoming the core of this team. And if and when they're out, the players behind them are either not major league ready or of major league caliber. And we noticed that, especially at the end of the year last year. In fact, you were the one that pointed that out a couple of times. And I think, Johnny, the greatest example was with Nolan Shawnoell, right?
Yeah, with Nolan Shawnoell, the fact is that he got hurt. And so who do they have to fill in at first, Mike? Well, it was a combination of Oswald Peraza, who I don't think he's played first base in his career.
Nope.
He obviously can play third base. He's played shortstop. And so it was Oswald Peraza, and then Nico Cavadas filled in as well. Neither of them were great and not even good. Cavadas had a 100 average, a 217 on base, 100 slugging, 317 OPS. Peraza played it for the first time in his career over at first base. In 108 chances, he had 4 errors and a negative ultimate zone rating. And then when Neto was out at the end of the season, we saw the offense struggle without him. Denzer Guzman filled in, and he's intriguing and certainly has a future with this team, but he's just not ready to fill that spot when Zach Neto is out of the lineup, is he?
Yeah. So we're sharing this to say that the Angels just don't have the luxury of sending someone down when a player struggles. They don't have the luxury to send him down to have him get some work. And we'll explain more of that in detail in the next segment and in the final segment. Let me give you the best example, I think. And that is Logan O'Hoppe, who a lot of fans have said, hey, send him down, work on his defense, work on his offense, right? Because he really struggled this year. You and I are of the opinion, and Logan is of the opinion, that it was more coaching. Now, we're more of the opinion that it's coaching than Logan. Logan took a lot of ownership Probably didn't need to, but that's what we appreciate about him. But if you send him down, then your starting catcher option is Travis d'Arnaud. And some fans would say, well, it's Travis d'Arnaud. That's not bad. But Johnny, he was about as equally worse on defense as O'Hoppe, and he was about equally worse on offense as Logan O'Hoppe. In fact, Travis d'Arnaud struck out more often in less at-bats than Logan O'Hoppe did. And the point being is you just can't manage your way out of a situation of a young player struggling by sending them down. Because reason number one why this team is different than every other major league team right now is they just don't have depth. And you have to build your way out of depth. You can't manage your way
out of debt. Are we talking Monarch money?
The reality is that this Angel team is just very, very different and operates very, very different. Like it or not, they operate very, very different than all the other major league teams. We don't have the luxury to go, well, send them down so we can have, and that's where they get to fill in the blank. Who are you gonna bring up? Right?
Exactly.
And up the biggest point, John. This is why everydayers, Angel fans, and you and I were clamoring for the Angels. We're pleading with the Angels at the trade deadline to make some trades because they think that they're competitive. We all felt that they weren't. They define competitiveness differently than Angel fans could define it. Competitiveness for the Angels is, well, we were in that one. Hey, we were close, right? The truth is, competitive means that you're not just in it, but you're in it to win it, and you're actually performing up to the level of being competitive and getting into the playoffs. And so this team is a team that's not competitive according to Angel fans, and it's why we wanted them to make some trades so that they could get some depth. They could have a Logan O'Hoppe, but then have a few players behind him. And that's really why this minor league system for the Angels gets ranked really low, because you don't have incredible depth. You don't even have good depth in the minor leagues with this team. And so that's why a trade would have been so important, not just this last season, but the season before, and even the season before that with Shohei Ohtani. I know that that's a whole nother conversation, but this is why the Angels really struggle with a lot of depth. And it's why you can't just send that guy down, because there's nobody to replace him.
And it's also why, and this happens every offseason, we see people get frustrated with the likes, with the signings of the likes of like Kevin Newman or a Scott Kingery, right? Because they don't have any depth, Mike. They don't have any position players to go to when they have injuries or when they need somebody off the bench. Now, Bryce Teodosio is a good example of some good depth, right? And I know that his bat wasn't great, but he brought something to the table that the Angels haven't had, and that's tremendous center field defense, some speed on the base paths. It's my contention that if he has some different hitting coaching, that he's going to look a whole lot different up there at the plate. Plus, it was truthfully his first year at the majors, because he did get a sneeze at it last year, and by the time the sneeze was over, he was hurt, and so he didn't get to play very much in 2024. But all of that to say, this is why you see the Angels go into what a lot of people call the scrap heap, right? You're getting depth pieces. You're getting guys to put in AAA. You're getting guys to put on your bench because they just don't have it readily available to them when they absolutely need it. And we're going to see that again. Honestly, we're going to see those sorts of moves. Was it 2 years ago they had Jake Marisnik? I don't think he even came up to play for the Angels, but that's a depth signing, because you need somebody to back up when Trout inevitably can't play the outfield, right? And we've seen that story over and over again. And that's the issue with the Angels. It's just they don't have that right behind the major league level. They certainly have position players in the minor leagues, but they're not MLB ready yet. In fact, there was an everydayer on Twitter who actually, and this might be a good conversation for a later show, who said, look, with Teodosio's bat, you might as well just put Nelson Rada out there. And I was like, ooh, that's actually not a bad argument to be made there. So that would be a fun thing to dive into later. But that's the thing, is I don't want to see Nelson Rada up in the majors yet. I want him to be down in AA doing his thing. In fact, he had a much better AA season than he did the year before, because they were testing him and challenging him and seeing, hey, you struggled the first year in AA, do it again and see if you can get better. And he certainly did this past season. So all of that to say, this is why you see the Angels go into the scrap heap. This is why you see them struggle once one guy gets hurt. Once that one dude is out of the lineup, then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, we're running out the spring training B game lineup. We're running out the September 27th lineup at this point of the season. That's not good at all.
Yeah, I would even argue that if you bring up a Nelson Rada, you don't send him back down.
Yeah,
because if you brought him up, he's your best option. He's the guy that you want in there. Apparently, who you have was not good enough.
Right.
So if you bring up a Nelson Rada, then you're keeping him on the major league roster. And the thing that we're going to say over and over and over on this episode of Locked On Angels is because you do that because this Angel team is very different than any other team. Yeah. Like it or not, agree with it or not,
I don't.
This is how, right? Yes. And this is how the team operates.
Yeah.
This is what they've set themselves up to do. They have no other options. It's either Nolan Shawnuel or nobody. It's either Logan O'Hoppe or nobody. And don't give me that garbage of, well, Chad Wallach was it? Shut up. It's Chad Wallach he's a quad A player. He's the epitome of a quad A player that you would say these other guys that they bring up are quad A players. Chad Wallach is not anywhere near Logan O'Hoppe, and neither is Travis d'Arnaud. Plus, O'Hoppe has young age on him with a lot of experience. Yeah. And I think it was a down year for him. So this year will be a prove it year for him, and we're rooting for him. This is why, though, you can't just throw out the send him down and let him develop in the minor leagues, because the Angels don't have anybody that could replace that player that is major league ready or even major league caliber.
And the problem is that if you do send a Logan O'Hoppe down and you bring up, Sebastian Rivero to play, then you're not allowed to get mad when they suck. Yeah. Right? Like, you're not allowed to say, well, send that guy down and this guy down and then expect them to still have a good record. It's just not going to happen. It's just think about it logically. That's not going to be the case if you sent everybody down to work on something and replace them with somebody they don't have. Honestly, they don't have a good replacement to go up. You can't bring Martin Maldonado out of retirement to come play for you because it's just not going to work. And so the Angels, they have to build their way out of that. And we're going to get into that conversation. So thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, what can the Angels do with a struggling player? We're going to tell you about that coming right up.
I'm a big fan of live baseball, but getting the tickets for live baseball can be really frustrating. The queues, the login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why John and I use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to you, our everydayers. Game Time is fast, it's easy, it's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price that you see is the price that you're going to pay. It's honestly faster and cheaper and less stressful than any other way that I've bought tickets and John has bought tickets. So download Game Time today, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. And whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube and get in the conversation by finding today's episode. Get in the comment section because we love hearing from you there. And while you're there, hit that like and subscribe button. I was thinking about it, Mike. I know we call everybody everydayers, but to me, I think the hardcore fans, the hardcore Angel fans, we just need to call them sickos. For the sickos who like to watch this team and endure the pain and misery that they've provided for us. We're all sickos. We all enjoy the pain and misery because we love this team. So our everydayers and the sickos who love to watch, we're grateful that you're here. Hit us up on social media at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros as well with your thoughts on today's discussion.
Sending a player down only works if you call someone up who is better. And the Angels just haven't had that option. Our favorite team doesn't do that. If a young guy is struggling and he's your best option defensively, positionally, or long-term, then you got to keep him at the major league level because we don't have that flexibility. Like it or not, agree with it or not, that's just our favorite team. They are not like any other team in this regard. And so we can't really have right now, at least, a traditional perspective of how a team is going to operate when we're talking about our favorite team, when we're talking about the Halos. We've often said that GM PM has to play in the RD sandbox. Yeah. Unfortunately, everydayers, Angel fans, we're in the sandbox too, which means that we have to adjust our approach to what we believe the Angels should do with a struggling player. So, Johnny, what should we do? What should we say? What should we think outside of send them down, right? And let them marinate in the minor leagues. What is a better option, especially as we move into 2026? Now, this is not knowing what the Angels are going to do with their roster, not knowing who's going to be available, not knowing who they might potentially bring up. A lot of factors play into this, but once the roster is set, I mean, there's not much that I think will be different about how the Angels operate in 2026 versus 2025 and really the last 10 years. There's going to be that same mode of operation, the same language, competitive, right? They're going to use all of that nonsense. And so as Angel fans, as we jump into the sicko dish, what are some options outside of send him down, let him marinate? What are some things that we can do, Johnny?
Mike, here's something that I think speaks to your point. So I'm going to use it as an example for the moment. Mike Trout. Obviously, you're not going to send him down to AAA. You're not going to send him down to work on some things. You're going to let him figure it out at the major league level. But what was the problem we had with Mike Trout this season was the fact that no matter what was said or no matter how he performed out of the number 3 spot, he was in that number 3 spot game after game after game after game. And even when he came back, there was a few days there where he was batting 5th and he looked really good. And it was like, hey, Trout's back. He's healthy. He's going to do good. Then he went back to 3, struggled, really struggled. And then there were some games where we saw him at 1, we saw him at 2, and we got a little bit better of a version of Mike Trout once they did some moving around. I say all this because the Angels' problem is that they don't adjust. They try to force a square peg through a round hole, and it never works, right? Yeah. My 10-year-old son, 10-month-old son has one of those cubes where you put the shapes in, and he hasn't quite figured it out yet, but he's 10 months and he's not a baseball franchise like the Angels. So that's the difference there. But here's the thing. He could run a better team. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Here's the thing. The Angels just refuse to adjust their approach with some of these players. And so if they have a struggling player, they do have some options other than just sending them down. Let's talk about their role, whether that's batting lower in the order, maybe a part-time platoon situation where you have somebody who hits lefties really well. And hey, you know what? Let's get your, let's build you back up. Let's build up your confidence. Let's put you out there only against lefties and see what you can do, right? That sort of situation. And let that go for a while. And then eventually you kind of build your confidence back up and you start doing what you were doing before. So adjusting their role, perhaps it's an element of the coach's focus a little bit more on somebody, or in Logan's case, a little bit less, kind of let him do his thing. The problem is, Mike, is that it just doesn't seem like they made any adjustments to what they were doing in terms of helping guys, fixing guys. We know that there's little things that they can do, hey, lower your hands, turn your shoulder, you're opening up with your hips at the plate, right? There's certainly that aspect of it, but a major significant thing that they need to do is put these guys in different situations. Don't keep putting them in the same situation and expect them to get better, because sometimes you just get in a funk and you can't get out of it. So really the Angels, they can't be so hard-nosed with their decision-making. Be flexible, move some guys around, let things happen a certain way. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I really believe that one of the things that the Angels can do in 2026 as well is practice consistency.
Yeah.
I really liked what they did with Bryce Teodosio at the end of the 2025 season. They let him play. They let him be in there, play defense, hit. All of those things were great. Now, we did have a bit of an issue with them always pinch hitting for Teodosio in major moments, and then it cost them defensively. But what they did, I would say about 70 to 80% of the time with Bryce was really good.
Yeah.
Consistent. John, I think that's one of the reasons why Logan struggled is they didn't have him in there on a consistent basis. I know he needed a break. I know that there was a platoon conversation. I know that Travis d'Arnaud got hot for a bit. All of that is great. but they kept playing it by the numbers. Oh, we want this guy to catch this pitcher. We want this guy to hit in this moment. Instead of going, well, what's best for what we hope is a cornerstone piece for the future of this franchise. They don't ask those questions. And then they don't do what's best for that player in those situations. This is what the Angels need to work on. I also think when we think about these young players, we're so quick to say, send them down or to do this or to do that. But then at the same time, we'll say, let the kids play. We should let the kids play. Well, this is what happens when you let the kids play. You have a situation where they struggle and they got to figure that out. The Angels are really an anomaly in the major leagues because these young guys can figure out what other young guys in the minor leagues are figuring out. The Angels are going to figure that out at the major league level. Yeah. And what they're also figuring out is, are these guys even ready for the major leagues? Right. Denzer Guzman, for example, does not look ready. That's a guy that you then send back down to start the next season and let him marinate until he's ready, because you don't need him unless somebody goes down. You already have a good shortstop. Putting him at third base, if you put him at third base in 2026 without going and signing somebody or trading for somebody, then you got to let him run with it. You got to let him hold it down the entire time. Christian Moore is another example. I didn't like the up and down with Christian Moore. I know he got hurt in between, but I didn't like that they would hold him up, send him down, hold him up, send him down. And I know that he was really, really struggling. And then when he went to the minors, he kind of worked on some stuff. I like seeing him get some consistent ABs. Now, they did have Louis Rengifo, and so that gave them the option to send Christian Moore down. But I think that if we're going to let the kids play, then maybe we need to let the kids play. Do you agree?
Yeah, and you saw that, as you mentioned, with Bryce Teodosio. And then to be fair, I think they definitely did that with Denzer Guzman. It was like, all right, let's see what this kid can do at the major league level. And he's very much not ready yet, but he will be somebody good, I think. I think defensively, he looked really good out there. And so it's going to take another season of Denzer Guzman in the minor leagues working on some things and building his way up to the major league level, right? And I didn't even expect him to be on the major league roster at some point this season. Correct. And so it was cool that he got that opportunity. But the truth is that was an area in which, you know what? He's struggling at the plate. He did have some nice homers, but that's neither here nor there. He's struggling at the plate. But let him figure it out at the major league level because it's September and, there's 20 games left. Let the kid play and figure it out. So I think in that sense, they did a good job with consistency with those guys, Teodosio, Guzman, that sort of thing. But the point is, it's not about sending the players down, right? And so it's easy to just be like, well, send that guy down, have him work on some stuff. What they need to do is what's best for the team as it currently stands. And the way it currently stands is that there's a lot of young guys figuring out this game as they go. And as you keep saying, Mike, whether you like it or not, for better or for worse, this is where the Angels stand. And so you mentioned it earlier. As Angel fans, we've got to operate within Artie's snow globe, his playhouse, his sandbox, and the way that Perry Manassian has had to build this team. Whether you like it or not, this is where we stand. This is where we stand as Angel fans who root for the team that we root for, is that it's a lot of young guys figuring it out at the major league level. And the truth is, other teams are starting to do that more. I was just looking up, I believe Cam Smith for the Astros came up very early. A 236 average, 671 OPS. Not a great season by any means, but the difference is he plays right field. Well, the Astros have the depth. They have the guys who can play, right field or wherever they need somebody to play. And so that's the difference between a team like the Angels and a team like the Astros. And so that kind of teases, where we're headed in our conversation. But the truth is that we have to ask the question, are Angel fans willing to see our team operate this way? Because I think we all want one thing, right? And that's for them to be a winning team, to make the postseason for the first time in 11 freaking years. And that would be all well and good if they did that. But as they're currently built, as they're currently constructed, there are, unfortunately, some rules that they have to abide by. But the way that they can help their young players is to be a little bit more bold, be a little bit more aggressive, right? You don't have to force Mike Trout to stay in the 3-hole the whole time. Like, move him around and see what happens. You saw success in the 5th spot, maybe put him back there, right? Teodosio, I know he was down in the number 9 spot. Stop pinch hitting for Luis Rengifo because you're trying to win a game. Give the kid an opportunity to win the game for himself, because Rengifo's gone. He's not an Angel anymore. Teodosio is going to be here. Whether he has a role on this team next year is not really for sure or for certain. But the truth is like, give that guy a chance. And I think that's a lot of what's been missing from this team lately.
We're right in the middle of the NFL season, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. So all you got to do is pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app.
Did you do a little Mac Jones rushing yards on FanDuel and get yourself some cash, or did you not trust him to do that?
I didn't trust him at all. But that's what it means to be a fan, right? Now, you can use FanDuel, and there's so many ways that you can use it with parlays, or you can have a player prop, or maybe jump in live on the games. That's what I should have done with Mac Jones. You could have jumped in, and they gave you the option for rushing yards. So don't do what I do. Do what experts do. Use FanDuel. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel is going to make the game day experience so much better. So stop waiting. Start betting. Start winning. Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
So what can the Angels learn from winning teams and how to deal with struggling players? Mike, we often say, we wish we had, the player pipeline that you see with like the Rays or the Dodgers, right? Just player after player after player coming up from the minor leagues and being able to make an impact at the major league level, right? And it takes some time. Sometimes I think, I'm bringing this up because it's kind of funny. We could have had him, Andy Pages for the Dodgers, came up, didn't look fantastic, but he's certainly a crucial part of this team now in his second season of full-time play with the Dodgers. Like that's a huge piece of what they got going on. And so there's a lot of comparisons you can make across the league when it comes to how the Angels can learn from winning teams and how to deal with struggling players. What are some of those things that you see other teams doing that the Angels are not right now?
Yeah, and I love this conversation because we are Angel fans that are stuck in Artie's snow globe, but there are things that Artie and the Angels could do that we could clamor for, we could be loud about on social media and on shows like this to hopefully maybe influence the direction of what they're doing. I think, Johnny, they need to invest in minor league coaching and in the analytics. And what I mean by that is that they need to do what the Dodgers did with Roki Sasaki. Here's a guy struggling. They send him down to the minor leagues. He comes back up. They reworked his whole windup.
Yeah.
And now he's closing for them and leading them to the World Series, right? That is something that we always would kind of mock when it came to the Angels. Would they even be able to do that?
Yeah.
They get rid of some of the big names in the minor leagues, some of the good guys that are good scouts in the minor leagues because of money. That's why they need to invest in good coaching, not just at the major league level, but good coaching at the minor league level and guys that are going to invest in these players. Now, Chris Cortez was on this show and he talked about how much he's learning from the pitching coaches where he's at. That's good news, but it's also what a good player says. It's what a good player communicates. Now, I think he's full of integrity and I think he actually means what he says, but I want to see the Angels really focus and prioritize major league level all the way down, bringing in the best of the best.
Yeah.
It's going to cost money, but you aren't going to have a great team without investing in that great team. And that's really what I think the Angels have struggled with. They just haven't had the minor league up to the major league ability to identify, you know what? His release point's not great. Jack Hanowitz, you know what's happening? His windup is messing him up. Those things are little things that you need a team of people. The Angels are like George Costanza. They don't need one person. They need a team to evaluate them. They need a team to see what's going on with them because they need a whole lot of help.
You know what? And if the Angels had Roki Sasaki and he struggled the way that he did as a starter, they just would have kept running him out there every
Yep.
fifth day, right?
Yep.
And nothing would have changed. And then they would send him down and then say, oh, we're out of starters. All right, bring Roki back up. This is what happened with Kohanowitz, honestly. And so that's the difference there, is that when they do send people down, does it actually make a difference? And so for everybody who clamors for them to, send them down and work on guys, look, it sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I think it helped Christian Moore because, again, he was coming off that injury when he came back, didn't look great, came back up, focused on contact, Michael, right? Contact at the plate, putting the ball in play. That was significant. And speaking of somebody like Christian Moore, the Angels need to give their prospects a very clear path to the major leagues, please, and a clear direction. Somebody like Tyler Bremner, right, who they drafted their number one pick, I should say, in the first round of this draft. It was quite a surprise, but everybody said, well, the Angels like to rush these guys up to the majors. So is that technically a clear path to the majors? Well, we're not sure, because obviously Bremner was shut down because he already pitched a college season, and so he's not going to continue to pitch for the Angels in the minor leagues. And so that's another thing, is he going to be in the minors for a month and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 is he going to do the Trey Savage thing where he's up by the end of the season because he moved through the minors so fast? I don't know, but that's the thing, is we don't know what the Angels plan to do with a lot of their prospects. I know everybody can tease and say, oh, he's, a college senior, college junior. We'll see him on opening day, right? And sometimes that's been the case. I think people are silly to tease the Angels for bringing up guys like Neto and Shonwell, considering now pretty much all of the league is doing that. In fact, the Giants are rumored to bring in the head coach from the Tennessee Vols because he is a college guy. Yep. And the pathway from college ball to the majors is a lot smaller than it used to be. And I think that begins and ends with what the Angels have been able to do, for better, for worse, whether you like it or not. We'll keep saying that. But that's the thing, is these guys need a clear path to the majors. And I think it seems like they're doing that, or at least they're showing patience with a lot of guys when it comes to them making their way to the majors. But I think it's important to have a plan for most of these guys, right?
Yeah. And you mentioned patience, John. I think when it comes to some of their big name prospects, like a Nelson Rada, even a Denzer Guzman, they need to be patient and not rush them up unless they absolutely need them. They needed Zach Neto because, remember, the defense was terrible when Zach Neto got called up. They brought up Nolan Shonwell because he was tearing it up in the minor leagues.
Yeah, and it was September.
Yeah. And then Nolan Shonwell proved that he can handle himself at the major league level. So did Zach Neto. Before they bring up a Nelson Rada, before they bring up other players, I think that they need to be very patient and go, okay, when we bring him up, and this might be a part of the strategy conversation, when we bring him up, he is going to be fill in the blank, right? Matthew Lugo is an example of that. Matthew Lugo was called up a couple of times. Did he get a bat in his hand? Did he play in the outfield? No, he didn't get to do any of that stuff. And that's a problem. You need to be able to go, I'm bringing him up because we're going to have him play. The Angels are different than any other team. If you're going to call up a guy like that, then you need to say, and he's going to be in left field. He's going to be at third base. He's going to be at second base. Christian Moore, they should already be saying he's going to be at second base, because you can't send that guy back down to the minor leagues. You can't. You're the Angels. You've already had him up. He already had a major impact in a couple of games this last season. It would be foolish to do that unless you go out and reincarnate Ryan Sandberg. Then you got to have Christian Moore at second base because he's cheap and because he's developing and because you drafted him number one. You got to have him be there. You got to have him play, because if he's not there, then it's Oswald Peraza. Yeah. If he's not there, then it's somebody that's not going to perform and we're not going to be excited about. I want to see Christian Moore develop. Even if he struggles, I want to see him develop. I think the Angels have to be patient with the players that they do bring up. But once they bring them up, they need to say, and this is what he's going to do. And we're not negotiating that. We're going to let him figure it out at this position at the major league level.
Now, the Angels might not be able to copy the way that other teams make their moves. I mean, realistically, they can because they have the money to do it, but they're not going to, right? Yeah. Sandbox, snow globe, playhouse.
Yep.
However, they can copy the way that their systems work. And so if you're going to operate and want to be a team that is competitive, is this, is that, then look to the competitive teams and see what they're doing and see how they handle their prospects, see how they handle their major leaguers. see how they handle their business, because obviously the way you're running business right now is just not working.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your next listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. You can find Game Night on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on social media at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros. Come on over to YouTube and find today's show. Get in the comment section because we want to hear from you. We read all your comments, and we do our best to get back to everybody. Mike, what do we have on deck for Tuesday's show?
Well, the Angels are pursuing Albert and then maybe not pursuing Albert and pursuing Torrey and then maybe not pursuing Torrey, right? We still haven't heard about that. So if we hear, we're going to share that with you right here on Locked On Angels. But until then, John, is Torrey Hunter now the second option for the Angels for the third time in his career? Let's talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, for the sickos who love to watch and love this team, we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
I'm disturbed. I have it all.